Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Fail-Proof Your Inventory Operations, How to Achieve Greater Visibility and Control in Your Warehouse. My name is Elizabeth Morris, and I'm the Corporate Events Manager here at Cavallo. We're really excited to have all of you here with us today. The format for today is a 30-minute presentation that includes a demo, and we'll follow that with some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and type those questions in, and we'll do our very best to get to all of those at the end. I do want to remind everyone that today's webinar is being recorded, and you will be able to access the on-demand version of it using your registration link following the webinar. We are excited to have Ken Gauld here with us today. He's with Cavallo. He'll be discussing ways to overcome common inventory management challenges and sharing strategies for transforming your warehouse operations to save time and boost profitability. So without further ado, Ken, I'm going to let you take it away.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I'll do a quick introduction of myself. Elizabeth did a great job introducing me. It's kind of nice to know sometimes who you're talking to. My name is Ken Gauld. I've been at Cavallo for around 6 years, and I started here at that time, 6 years ago, as a sales engineer. And I've worked my way to now manage the team of the sales engineers here. I've worked with countless customers over those years to understand where they're having issues and designing solutions where we can really add value and improve the lives of our customers, our users. When I'm not doing that, I enjoy sailing all summer long, and when it turns cold, turn to skiing, where I also enjoy helping people in that capacity as a ski patroller. In one of these pictures here, my family also volunteers with an organization locally called Friends of Grand Rapids Parks, where their initiative is to increase the tree canopy across the city. And in one weekend this spring, my family and many other volunteers, we planted over 300 trees on a Saturday and a Sunday. I look forward to going back to that with my family in the future, and they can see the impact of their work as the trees grow along with them. Now, for today's conversation, the objectives are listed here of what we hope to be able to cover and achieve using our inventory management tools. So really, the objectives are to maximize profitability, as Elizabeth had mentioned as well. That's a goal to increase the profitability and the value by having great inventory control in this case. We can do that with having really fast and accurate inventory transactions, being able to do this with barcode scans as opposed to paper pick tickets and stock count check sheets and that kind of thing. It's all going to be electronically captured, so it's faster and more accurate that way. What that'll gain is that you'll avoid costly bottlenecks and missed shipments and low fill rates and returns, all of those things that can negatively impact profitability. Really what we're looking to do is 100% error-free goods movements here by being able to do it with the barcode scanners and have it validated all the way along the process as well. So our agenda for today, we're going to take a look at a metric in which to measure the return on investment of your inventory. So really a measure of the profitability of the inventory that is being held. Then get into a product demonstration to see how we have controls that can impact that positively as well. And then I'll give you a quick intro to a promotion that we have on Inventory Manager that's ongoing at the moment, and open it up to Q&A. So common challenges that we hear around inventory management is that inventory visibility is a problem. It's hard to know the location, the quantity, and perform the goods movements on products. And really, it's an essential component of running a successful operation. In its absence, bad inventory data results in inefficiencies, like customer service team is not knowledgeable on what there is, where it is, if it's available to sell. Buyers are not equipped with inventory information that they need on what to replenish. Excessive inventory holding costs and are driven up, in operational costs, warehousing all that stock reduces the profitability overall as well. And it leads to customer frustration also. So now getting outside of only your own walls and your own people, customers also experience some of the problems of inventory inaccuracies because they're getting the wrong items or they're not able to purchase the items that they hope to because they're out of stock. So these blind spots into inventory availability, the quantity, and so on, make retailers and distributors respond reactively versus proactively. And the result is reduced inventory turns and hasty warehouse planning. There's a lot of bottleneck stockouts, returns, excessive inventory, and worse still, the efficiency and the profitability and the customer satisfaction are all jeopardized. Now, taking a look at a metric here that's it's a little bit more academic in nature, but it's really important to capture this and measure it for knowing whether you're managing your inventory well. So because for distributors, inventory is often your largest asset, it significantly can affect and negatively affect too cash flow and profitability. So along with other key distribution metrics like gross margin percent or EBITDA, the gross margin return on inventory investment is a key indicator of distributor profitability. I've worked with this, there's a book reference down here that's optimizing distributor profitability and best practices for a stronger bottom line. This is a really great book for really any of our customers. It goes through many of the operational functional areas in an organization and talks about how to be stronger and perform better for typically things like profitability and inventory practices and so on. It defines the gross margin ROI as really it's the ROI on your investment into inventory, and it measures that performance. And you can think of it as turn and earn. More often you turn your inventory, the greater you earn. Within this as well, the organization that put that book together and has developed a lot of these statistics, they found that best-in-class firms typically have a gross margin return on inventory investment that falls somewhere between 150 and 400%. And there's variance in there for different lines of trade and industries, but typically that's the bracket. It's a pretty wide bracket there too that distributors that are best in class would fall into. And the variables within that equation are shown here. These are the levers and the dials that we have to work with. It's revenue and cost of goods sold, and then inventory. And it's often considered to increase gross margin with a heavy focus being paid on increasing revenue and also to reducing cost of goods sold. That gives you your gross margin. But if you're doing that without awareness of your total inventory, then that eventual ROI on that inventory investment may still remain weak. Cash is tied up and it's not earning you anything. So think of this as some simple numbers as an example. You sold a machine for $1,000 that cost you $500. It's a nice margin, but where it turns into the gross margin return on investment here, you have to also consider that that's the first one maybe that you sold in months, and you have 99 more of those machines in the warehouse that are not moving. So while you initially think you have a great gross margin on that one sale, this is where the gross margin return on inventory investment helps measure the actual return you get from the full inventory. And for today's conversation, inventory is the lever where we can help. So in this example, I've used some numbers that we can kind of run through a typical gross margin lens and see where if we're able to move the revenue up by say 25%, what impact would that have on the gross margin or GM ROI? In this case, we'll say cost of goods sold also increases, but we'll try to do that in a fiscally responsible way because we can perhaps buy at bigger volumes and get better prices from suppliers. So while revenues are up in this example, we'll try to keep it that cost of goods sold don't grow as quickly, only 20% higher. So what that does is it drives the gross margin return on inventory investment from a baseline of 136 to a respectable 189%. That puts it into the best-in-class bracket. It means you're dramatically more profitable. And congratulations, this is excellent work and things are running well. But as sales are up, maybe more inventory is purchased, and this is unchecked, and it creeps up, say, by 40%. Now the gross margin return on inventory investment is back to where you started. Excess inventory is tying up cash and erases the great work that's been done earlier to improve the profitability. So your ability to convert inventory to cash slows, your ability to reinvest elsewhere decreases, to shake your financial footing to be on. And here's a story that can be played out in a positive way from the text that I'd referenced. They had a case where a distributor of sporting goods had been struggling with growing inventory and was in danger of running out of cash. That owner of the sporting goods distributor undertook an inventory review project to understand their gross margin return on inventory investment and get things under control. In that example, the approach was to classify inventory into buckets, think A, B, C, D items based on their gross margin return on investment. In that example, the findings were that perhaps that example, the A class items made up 10% of the inventory valuation, B was 20%, the remaining 70% was between C and D items. The actions that could be taken in that case was that the distributor decided to stop buying any more C and D items and increase the A and D items to improve the fill rates of the things that had a solid ROI. Within 6 months, the inventory had been cut by nearly in half, and 99% of the sales were of the highly profitable A and B items. There may have been potentially a loss in sales associated with those slow-moving C and D items, but it's far less than the gains that come from the reinvestment of those dollars into the A and B items with a greater return on investment. In that example, the financial position of the company was improved so that when a downturn struck, they came through, and had these actions not taken place, cash likely would have run out and they may have not survived that period. I won't claim that we make everyone best in class just with inventory management software alone. There's a lot of good practices that you have to have in place as well, but we feel that this can be a component of it as well. It records all the inventory transactions at each movement, knowing what you have, what isn't moving, where items are stored, etc. And you can perform an analysis just like the case study customer did as well. SalesPad's inventory manager houses all the inventory transactional data, and everything passing through the warehouse is recorded. It's from that data that an analysis of the items in the sales lines with low gross margin return on inventory investment, like those C and D type items, you can determine what they are. You can identify excess safety stock and slow moving items, and you can use that to perform those inventory investment decisions, like buying more of the A and B type items. So with that example and how it fits into our ecosystem as well, here's all of the areas that we have for our software. This is our full suite. And this is particularly what we're going to be focusing on for the webinar is the inventory manager segment down here as well. We're going to also tie in some workflow automation along the way as well. Just keep in mind, there's many other areas that we touch to make the full order to cash process faster, but those are topics for another day. Again, the specific part of that product suite that we're talking about is Inventory Manager, and it's the tool that enables the key users listed here to be in command of the warehouse. And there are two views illustrated in this graphic on the slide as well. The PC-based component, it's often used by the warehouse or operations managers, kind of the back-end administrative and maintenance tools, although you can do some transactions in there as well. And the mobile client, that's for the person who's on the floor or requires the mobile tools to go with them as they move up and down aisles and putting product away, picking orders and stock counts and etc. And this is what we're going to jump into at the demonstration of how we support those users to perform the goods movements with a high degree of accuracy and speed. So while Inventory Manager is really the focus of the demo, I want to show it to you at the life cycle of an order that gets prepared for a customer. So I'm going to initially start in SalesPad to show to set the stage of a document that's in the workflow, and the workflow will represent the life cycle of the order. And that's going to pass through to the warehouse to perform their steps in that life cycle. They'll use Inventory Manager Mobile to take action on it, showing it moving through workflow as they confirm the actions that they're doing in the warehouse as well. And all the way along, it's also going to have that the rules are being followed based on what's built into the workflow too. So with that, I'm going to switch gears and jump into SalesPad to kind of to set that stage of what the order is going to look like. In my Sales Monitor view, if you're not familiar with this one, this is really our order management dashboard where the orders are at all points in that life cycle. The life cycle of my orders is something like pending order, ready to pick, ready to pack, shipping, invoice. There's a few exception queues in there as well, like items are back ordered or there's some rework that needs to be performed. Those are not really the natural flow of the order here. We're going to focus on an order that's in my ready to pick queue. It's specifically this order 1494. I'll open that up quickly just to show you a little look at what's on there. It's 2 line items as shown here, and quantity 1 unit of this, 2 units of that. And since it's out there ready to pick, this is what we expect that the warehouse user is now going to take action on. Perhaps with that workflow as well, I've also produced a pick ticket for that order that we're working on as well. It's quite large here. Let me kind of change that up. I've automated this in such a way that this pick ticket or packing slip that goes along with this order might auto print out to the warehouse printer. So they can grab this and then perhaps use this as a traveler document if they want a paper document to work from as well. You'll see it's barcoded as well, so I can make some barcoded entries based on the selections that I'm going to be doing in the barcode scanning device. And what that looks like, I'll bring that over here as well. Now I'm using a screen sharing tool for the mobile device that I've got in my hand so that you can actually see what I'm doing on my screen here as well. It's an iOS device. We also support Android-based devices with Zebra as one of the main manufacturers on that the Android platform for mobile hardware. Once we're into the application now, these are the different modules that are available to me. And I'll kind of classify them into some groupings here. There's fulfillment activities we can do here, like picking and a picking confirmation, packing and shipping. That kind of gets it out the door. There's other functions here like PO receiving and confirmation steps you can run for bringing goods in. There's transfer options here as well around sites, bins, and in-transit transfers. Returns is much like a PO receiving, but it's against the return document to bring the returns products back in. And there's a few other things here as well, stock counts, adjustments, and just generally inventory lookups to find out where items are and then quantities as well. Now I'm going to start into picking initially. This is where we're going to start with what document are we picking and which items are we going to go for. And again, we were working with this document 1094, which I've got a physical copy of in my hand. I showed you the PDF of that as well. I'm going to scan that in, and that's going to bring in that document number. Okay. And then it's referencing, oops, I clicked through, which item are we now ready to scan? There's a couple options on this. I've got that on that picking ticket, so I can see exactly which items I want to get. Also, I could click through and it's going to show me a bit of information of what's on there. The 2 line items of 3 units total to be picked. I'm going to do that with barcode scanning, and it's going to go through, read that barcode as if I have that product, and it can confirm the quantity. There's a couple ways to make the quantity entry here. I could go ahead and type it on screen with the on-screen keyboard, the pluses or minuses, or scan to increment. So I hit perhaps scan the multiple units, and it's going to record which what sequence I'm on and how many I've picked. So we'll go ahead and put in that there's 2, and it's going to ask me in a multi-bin environment which bin am I retrieving this from. So I've got a sample bin label that I could read in as well. This might be physically applied to the location in the warehouse where you're picking from. Now you could end picking here to just say, yep, we've got these 2 products for this order, and that's as far as we'll take it before moving it on to, say, a separate packing stage. I'm going to go through it as if I'm also performing these next couple steps of not only picking these items, but putting them directly into a package. Perhaps I have a cart and I've got those boxes ready to go and I'm loading items right into the package as well. In that case, I could specify a number of different packages that might make up this shipment. And I've got the package type here as well. We'll say it's going into a medium box and I can assign a shipment number. So now I've entered all the data in the first pick of this order. It's marked that successful. And it's ready for the next item. So I can go ahead and scan in that next item, 1 unit of that, scan in the bin item. And you see it gets kind of much quicker when you're doing these as scanned entries as well. It's still package 1, that medium box, and hit submit. It's now going to note the document's fully picked in a couple different spots. And we'll take a look back at the life cycle of this order as well, the workflow that's behind it. It now knows that it's completed picking. What does that look like really? We had 1094 and ready to pick, and I've set it to refresh manually. So I'm going to hit that refresh now, and you'll see that 1094 has moved into my shipping queue. In this case, it didn't move to ready to pack because I did the combined picking and packing together. So now it's in a shipping queue where the next team has visibility up to their activities that they need to take place, perhaps getting the shipping labels and tracking numbers and finalizing that last step. That's kind of a quick run through of a pick transaction on the mobile device.
Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
Can we try something different? We have some questions coming through based on what you just reviewed here on the mobile app. So if you don't mind interrupting, I'd like to maybe address a couple of them while we're in the middle of it.
Sure.
Awesome. So the first thing, is this compatible with an item tracked by serial number?
Yeah, it is. I can set up a similar quick scenario. It'll take not but a moment to add a serialized item into this as well, and then we can show a quick example of that. It's not the AED. I have an item here, an AED that is serial tracked. I can confirm which one I'm looking for here. Yeah, it's this one. These are some serial numbers that I have available for this item. I'll throw it on an order. It won't appear on my pick ticket because it's already in ready to pick. I won't go ahead and reprint a new one, but now I've got a unit of that serialized item available on here. So if I go into picking and I retrieve that document number, actually I'll do it in a scanned way. We can then see an example of that item here that's the serialized one. And what that's going to then ask for is the serial number that we're grabbing. So it's adaptive to serial tracked, as it's mentioned here. Lot tracked would be similar. It would then trigger that we need to capture a lot number for a lot tracked item. Those serial numbers I have available is showing me what I've got in the bins. So I could make that selection, and it's going to record that and increment the count for every serial number that I pick. So because it also knows which bin that serial number is in, it pulls that through automatically, so I don't have to make that entry. Sometimes in other cases, like a lot number, that lot could exist in multiple bins. You would still have to enter a bin that you're pulling it from, but if that lot's in just one bin, it'll also pull that through for you. In this case, I would have to then go through, select the package and shipment that I'm putting it in as well, and I could complete that pick transaction as well. So hopefully that was a quick little detour into serial tracked item as well, and then touching on how it would affect lot tracked items too.
That's perfect, because a couple people asked about those serial numbers being tracked. So that's great. Thank you. Ken, what about an inventory transfer? Would you be able to show us that here fairly quickly?
Yeah, there's a couple different options we have on those inventory transfers, like depending on whether they're between sites, bins, or the GP as the service transfers or the in-transit transfers. And I'll go through some pros and cons of those as well. Quite simply, a bin transfer, since that's the most basic one, we can talk about this one first. We'll take an item, the bin that it's coming from, and the bin that it's going to, the quantity. And again, if it's lot or serial tracked, it would ask you that information, and you'd hit submit. And that's an immediate transaction. So it'll immediately recognize an inventory that has gone from lot or from bin A to B that's specified here. You'll see there's a replenishment function as well, which could be used to suggest which items to transfer to different locations in the warehouse if you have forward pick locations or something like that set up, and the replenishment quantity to move. A site transfer is similar in that you're going to select the item, the bin that it's coming from and to, but also the site that it's moving from and to. Now these will create an inventory transfer document that's available in SalesPad and GP, like in our inventory area here as well. You'll see the inventory adjustment documents. These are going to be the same documents in both places, and these would be able to then be retrieved in GP and posted, and that's going to then move that inventory from site A to site B along with the bin information. The reason why those need posting back to GP as well is because there's actually GL transactions that go along with that. The valuation of the inventory at each site changes, so it requires a posting transaction to complete that step. It's a nice check and balance in there as well, just to make sure that things are being checked before they hit your actual financial ledger. Lastly, the in transit is kind of a neat one because it has both a picking and a receiving transaction. So really great inventory control on this one. With the in transit picking, it's much like going through an order, picking those items based on what is being planned to be transferred. It's then going to move it and change the status of the in transit transfers based on the activity that's happening here to the via site. So the benefit of that is that the inventory is coming out of one site, the from site. It's being marked as kind of in transit. It's not yet received. It's kind of on its way. It's on the truck. So you've got a via site that you can record exactly what's in that transfer. And then eventually it's received. Now the receiving end, you've got to check to make sure that everything that the sending site said was loaded to the truck or part of that shipment is actually now arriving at the next warehouse. So it's got that extra level of control in there as well. While things are still in transit in that via site, you can always query that inventory to know that, yes, there's some items that I've got that are on their way to me, but I don't yet have. So what that would look like in the inventory, you might have inventory between sites showing the in transit as well. So you can always check like, well, what have I got coming between my sites? If I had some set to go here as well, I could click into it to see exactly what that inventory is, where it's coming from, and where it's going. So this is a quick example of just where we can also give visibility through the desktop side of what's in transit based on the transactions we're doing on mobile. So those are really the three main options for performing the inventory transfer functions, and some pros and cons of each.
Thanks for that, Ken. Appreciate it. I'll let you keep rolling.
Sure. Yeah, I have another example queued up, another document. So we did it on the fulfillment side of the house already. We moved the inventory out through marking it against which order is being fulfilled, which package it went into, and it gives really granular visibility in there as to what's being shipped out and exactly which package as well. So when you get a tracking number and you perhaps find that the shipment didn't make it, you know exactly which products were in that package that didn't make it. Or were damaged or something like that. That's also really important for ASN information. So anyone who's doing EDI often needs to provide the advanced ship notice information. It'll tell you exactly which items are in which package, which satisfies trading partners ASN information that they need communicated. The next transaction I was going to run through is an example of a PO receipt transaction here as well. So in this example, I've got a PO ready to go that's arriving at my dock, and I can pull that open, reference the PO number and the items and where they're going to be put away to. So in this example, I might have a range of different POs that are open, they're scheduled to come in, a whole range that are listed here. I could go through and select it. I'll backtrack out, and this is where I'm going to say scan that PO number and then which items are coming in. You'll notice this feels a lot like the fulfillment side of it. It's the document you're working on, the items that you're going to be selecting, and then the quantities that go along with it. So in this example, you can pull through. There's already 10 out of 20 units received on this PO, but we might have the remaining 10 coming in a case for this item. 10 eaches, or maybe it's one case, depending on the unit of measure schedules. And then where are we going to put this away to? This could be perhaps just put away to like a staging bin, like an inbound staging bin, and then you can use bin transfer to perform an actual put away transaction. Or I'm just going to say I'm putting it away directly to that bin right there. You can capture a vendor document number if you wanted to use that for matching purposes, or you could go ahead without it and proceed through if you wanted to as well. This would also be a scanned entry if you had that to get the vendor's document number as well. And I'll move through that. That's one line item of that PO that's now going to be completed for receiving, and then I can move through and complete the next item on that as well. So when I'm ready for the item number, you'll see that the first item is fully received. We're ready for the next one. We can get the next 10 there as well. Oh, I tapped into that. I didn't mean to do that one. All right, we'll go with entering that and submit. And that puts the document away that it's now fully received. So as we get this, you'll get the sense that many of these entries are made in a very similar way. There's going to be the document you're working with, the item, the quantities, the bins, serial numbers and lots if applicable as well. It's accurate and it's validated all the way through as well. So if you're in a picking transaction, for instance, I wanted to show an example of this. We were working with this order here, 1492. For example, this one, we've got some items, or actually we didn't complete this one with the pick, but if I were to put in and try to select an item that wasn't on this order, I'll just key in some other numbers. It's going to validate along the way here as well. Like the item does not exist, or if it's actually an item, but it's not on that document, it'll also confirm that that item isn't listed on this sales order. So this is where you've got the inventory controls to make sure that you're not picking the wrong item or picking too great a quantity for the order that you're working on. That way it reduces those incorrect shipments and the missed shipments, because everything's going to be scan validated along the way as well. Sometimes that's really important with customers or customers of ours, users who have items that are potentially very similar with minute changes. We've done this with, say, like dental tools, where there's different lengths and shank sizes and tips. They look almost identical to the naked eye, but there's very small differences there in terms of the grit of the polishing tools and so on. So scan validation would control for that to make sure that it's exactly the right item that the dentist had ordered. Or clothing and shoes. Sometimes if the shoe is a half size off and you pick the incorrect one, that's going to inevitably lead to a return because it doesn't fit the customer properly. If you get a size 7.5 when you meant for a 7, there's going to be a return that eats into the margin on that order. So with the scan validation that's performed here, it'll ensure that you get exactly the size 7 that you intended to get, and it won't proceed the order through unless you make that entry correctly. So within here as well, we talked about there's a few other things, but the way that these entries are performed become pretty much as I'd shown before, that the scanned entries or keyed entries are going to be accepted along the way, and then it triggers the workflow action on the back end. So as something's been done, you can always go back to Sales Monitor and see the progression of that order through its life cycle as well. That's beneficial because it's got the rules and automations that are built into this process as well. So when, for instance, something moves from picking to shipping and eventually out to invoice, as it moves through the shipping queue to invoice, you could trigger a shipping confirmation to go out to the customer. Your order has shipped, it's shipped in full because we captured all of the items with the scans, and here's your tracking number. That automation can be triggered so that the customer gets that in their email inbox and they're not then calling to say, hey, where are my items? Or if there's a delay or something like that, and the item perhaps moves to like a backordered status, trigger an automatic notification to the customer that we're working on your order. There's a slight delay. Here's what to expect. So you're proactively communicating along the way as well, so the customer knows exactly what's going on. And the internal people as well, they'll know that, hey, there's a back order. I need to get to work on these, either source it from another location, another site, or perhaps we need to trigger some purchasing to get more of that product to fulfill that customer's order. So everyone has clear accountability as to what's been going on in the warehouse, whether you're from the front office or working in the warehouse as well. So with that, I'm going to jump back over to our deck here. What we've solved for so far is that there's accurate inventory data that's been captured from the warehouse, and it's moving it through in the workflow and capturing all the information back to the order. That it helps you achieve higher fill rates and happier customers, less returns, more loyalty and satisfaction there. Really on point number 2, scanning an item's barcode lets the warehouse workers know right away if they've mispicked an item. If the item's barcode doesn't match an item on the order, the warehouse employee gets that error message. It's noted right away, and the item goes back on the shelf. That was a majorly impactful feature for a shoe company that's a customer of ours, Hoy Shoe Company. Jeff Downs, the CEO, had given us pretty much that statement that that's a major control that makes it hugely impactful for them. With those reliable inventory levels, sales and CSR teams can confidently say yes, that they have those items on stock and they're available to ship. That could have a positive impact on that revenue side of the equation as well. Yes, we have that. So the fill rates are higher, more inventory is getting out on time, and revenue is driven up on that side as well. And really, as it ties back to that profitability side of it as well, and back to that the gross margin return on inventory investment, stocking the appropriate inventory overall has a huge impact on that, because you're getting those higher fill rates, the inventory is turning more quickly, and that turn and earn equation gets driven up so that you fall into a best-in-class from the financial perspective of the gross margin return on investment. Really, the value that we're delivering here, we talked about a couple of these things already, but the workflow is going to be able to take the document, move it through all of the different steps with the engines in our order management system that do the automations and rules checking. This replaces the manual processes, things like being able to split orders for back orders versus items that are available to ship today, or fulfilling across different warehouses. Then we can confirm the pick, pack, and ship transactions, and we can trigger those emails out along the way as well. The omni-channel side of this also stands to benefit, because when you're selling across multiple different channels, all of those channels would need to rely on the inventory data to know what's available to sell. So if the warehouse salesperson just sold the last unit of an item, that needs to be clear on the website and other channels as well. So working from a single source of truth of inventory is imperative for omni-channel sellers. Because Inventory Manager works directly with GP's inventory tables, it's a single source of truth, and there's no sync or reconciliation issues necessary there. From the inventory visibility perspective, customer service order entry can see exactly what's available while talking to the customer. You can pull inventory and inventory information from other warehouses. If there's shortages, you can suggest different items that you could substitute in place, or even upgrade them to an additional item to increase their order size as well. By equipping the CSR team with what can be sold and what's available, you can drive that higher fill rates and higher margins there. Just think if you've ever had to answer the question, like, do we have something in stock? Imagine never having to do that again. And from the allocation and fulfillment side of this, we showed this of where we're able to ensure that inventory is reserved for the right customer, and the barcode scanning along to ensure that the right item is being shipped, reducing returns and frustrated customers. And because it's our 20th anniversary this year, we're running a 20% off promotion on Inventory Manager at the moment. So it's really timely that we were having this webinar to be able to share this information with you as well. So you've got some information on there that for Inventory Manager at the moment, we've got that 20% off of both the software licenses and the services side of it. If it's something you'd like to take advantage of, be sure to reach out to one of the account executives, or we've got contact information at the end here as well. We can share and mention that you attended the webinar, and we'll be sure to help you take advantage of this opportunity to have pretty significant savings off the inventory management software that we've shown today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth to talk about Panels 23. It's our big user conference that's just around the corner, and I'll be available for Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. You're right. It is definitely our most anticipated event of the year over here at Cavallo. It's our annual user conference happening August 7th through the 9th here in Grand Rapids. I'll tell you what, Grand Rapids and Michigan in general are beautiful to visit in the summer, and consider this your official invitation to join us for 2 jam-packed days of educational content, sessions, as well as some fantastic networking opportunities. In fact, Ken, I think you're leading maybe 2 or 3 of those sessions. So if you want to come meet Ken in person, we'd be glad to have all of you. So if you'd like to register or even just learn more about the event, head over to cavallo.com/panels23, or feel free to scan this QR code here on the screen. Again, we'd be glad to have you. We're about 3.5 weeks away. Couple big deadlines to keep in mind. Registration will close on July 24th. So you have a little bit more time to make your plans. And then if you do decide you'd like to come, we suggest grabbing your hotel room as soon as possible, as that discounted room block will close at the end of the day on the 16th of this month. So hope to see you all. I know there's some folks on the call here today that will be there, and we're excited to have you guys. So yeah, thanks for that intro, Ken. But let's jump into Q&A. We had some good questions here earlier. We've had a couple more questions come in related to serial numbers and tracking, but I'm pretty confident we covered those. Of course, if we did not, to those of you who asked those questions, let us know and we'll walk you through a custom demo. We'll highlight exactly what you're looking to learn more on. So couple more for you, Ken. Does Inventory Manager support stock counts?
Yeah, I didn't show that one directly, but you can perform stock counts with the mobile barcode scanner and take advantage of those things like the speed and accuracy. So with the mobile scanner, you can create and start a stock count directly from the mobile device, or you can start plan it and start it in GP as well, and then execute that stock count on the mobile device. The ability there is that you can work directly on the scanner to scan the items and the bins and get those counts, and that data is pushed back to GP for any of the variance reporting. So the big benefits on that one is accuracy and speed, no longer having to go out to the warehouse with clipboards and then rekey that into GP.
Perfect, thank you. Another one here. So a scenario, I guess my items are not labeled for my suppliers. This person uses Bartender to print labels. Can Inventory Manager read those?
Yeah, I've encountered Bartender among our customers in the past. And so first of all, yes, Inventory Manager can read barcodes that are provided out of Bartender or vendor issued barcodes that are applied to the product as it's coming in. So yeah, we work with all those mainstream symbologies for barcode types. But we can also go one better, I suppose, like in that we can also produce labels directly out of Inventory Manager. So we can print or generate those labels, a design for those labels with our integrated report designer that allows you to specify the barcode and what information should be on that label, and then print them directly. So say you're performing a PO receipt, goods are coming in and they're not labeled, 10 units, we could automate the printing of 10 labels to go along with that. So yeah, we can do that, and typically we replace the need for Bartender with our report designer and automated barcode printing capabilities.
Okay. So Ken, what if you sell out of 2 companies with the same warehouses? Can you transfer between the companies?
So that one's a little trickier because it's a different set of financials that underlie that if you're in companies A and B. So that one would need a little bit more consideration. We have dealt with that kind of thing in the past before, but it is trickier. And when you're using multiple companies, we can set it up with the barcode scanners so that a user could move between different companies to perform the goods movements with a single barcode scanner. It would require having kind of a connection to each company. so they would be able to transact them. The ability to do transfers between them as well, there's some complications there. We could certainly have a conversation about what those are and share the approaches we've dealt with on that one in the past.
Perfect. Sounds good. Yeah, it is a good question. And then it looks like our last question here is, so what mobile devices are supported? I think you touched on that earlier, may not have, and then are all the core features available on mobile?
Sure, yeah, there's a long list of hardware that we do support. I showed this one, a little iOS with a sled that it goes into. It gives it barcode scanning capability. There's a range of Zebra devices as well. They're oftentimes more ruggedized and heavier duty, purpose-built for warehouses. We've tested and confirmed that many of those are working, and there's information of that on our support page, support.cavallo.com. We see those Zebra devices work well. They're again purpose-built. Zebra is a large manufacturer in that space, so they're well supported. They make reliable equipment. Perfect.
Thank you. So that looks like it's going to conclude all of our questions. So Ken, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you all, of course, for joining us. If you'd like to dive deeper into your organization's specific needs or see one of those deeper demos related to the questions that were asked today, or even take advantage of the promotion that Ken talked about, feel free to reach out to Ken. You see his contact information here on the screen. He would be glad to facilitate a conversation. So lastly, when you exit the webinar, there will be a short survey. We'd greatly appreciate your feedback. Thank you again for attending, and we hope everyone has a great day. Bye-bye.